I want you to think about your last relationship for a second. Most relationships don't end because there wasn't desire at the beginning. They end because capacity wasn't there when pressure arrived. In the beginning, people have attraction, hope, chemistry, attention, time. There's very little pressure. It feels good. It's light. It's exciting. But when life shows up, work stress, kids, drama with the ex, health issues, financial tension, fatigue, emotional triggers, that's when capacity gets tested. Not when everything feels good, when it doesn't. When I say capacity, I'm really talking about emotional regulation, nervous system stability, conflict tolerance, accountability under pressure, the ability to delay gratification, the ability to stay engaged when it's uncomfortable. Most people don't lack desire. They lack the ability to stay steady when reality sets in. And when pressure builds beyond their internal regulation, they cope, not lead. When someone lacks capacity, they stonewall, they shut down, blame, avoid hard conversations, become hyper-focused on work, dive into hobbies, they numb out, they withdraw intimacy, start fantasizing about easier options. They seek relief instead of resolution, not because they're evil, but because they're overwhelmed. And overwhelmed people don't build, they escape. Here's how it actually unfolds. Pressure builds, they feel unsupported, they don't know how to ask cleanly, they don't regulate well, they shut down or lash out, the other partner reacts, resentment grows, distance increases, emotional safety drops, and someone checks out. Then years later, they say, we just grew apart. No, they lack the capacity to hold stress together. And when someone withdraws under pressure, the other partner often internalizes it as, I'm too emotional. I'm too needy. I ask for too much. I overwhelm people. No. You may need refinement in communication, but often what happened was you partnered with someone who didn't have the emotional bandwidth to co-regulate under stress. That is not the same thing as you being too much. That's a capacity mismatch. Now, here's where people get confused. They say they're going with the flow. They say they're taking it slow, being careful. But most of the time, that isn't leadership. It's fear. It's not trusting that they can spot true readiness. It's telling themselves they're being responsible by playing it safe. Going with the flow isn't maturity. It's often uncertainty disguised as calm. Now, I want to be clear about something. There are people who say, no, I'm not building for partnership right now. I'm dating casually. And honestly, I respect that, because at least they know their capacity. At least they're aware enough to say, I don't have the bandwidth to build something serious right now. That's honest. That's regulated. That's ownership. What creates chaos isn't casual dating. What creates chaos is saying you want partnership while lacking the capacity to sustain it. Most people don't wake up and say, I don't have the emotional regulation for this. They're not aware. If they were aware, they'd do something about it. They'd build it. They'd slow down. They'd get support. But instead, they drift. They say they're open. They say they're seeing what happens. They say they're taking their time. Not because they're strategic, but because they haven't evaluated their own capacity. People who are ready for partnership don't drift. They lead. They know exactly what they want. They know exactly what to look for. And they're not hanging around for people who don't. They are done teaching. They are done fixing. They are done waiting. They know their worth. They know their standards. And if you're not ready, they move on. They actually start assessing capacity on day one. You need a minimum of 3 months to evaluate capacity. Here's why. Month 1, they're regulated because nothing is hard yet. Month 2, real life starts bleeding in. The performance drops. The mask comes off. Month 3, a stressor hits. That is when you observe. Do they shut down? Do they communicate? Do they blame? Do they self-regulate? Do they repair? Capacity is not visible in chemistry. It's visible in stress response. And stress response takes time to surface. That's why the 3-month minimum is smart. Not as a rule, as a data window. So no, you're not assessing desire. They're responding to your photo. They're texting you. They're making effort. They may even tell you they want a relationship and act like it at first. That is desire. What you should be assessing is this. Can this person stay emotionally present when life is inconvenient? That is capacity. That's partnership readiness. Desire gets you started. Capacity keeps you building. Most people date based on desire signals. Do they want me? Are they excited? Are they consistent right now? Are they attracted to me? But partnership requires capacity signals. And capacity isn't just about surviving stress. It's about how someone behaves when they're tired, when they're disappointed, when they feel misunderstood, or when they don't get their way, or if they feel insecure. Because insecurity with low regulation leads to withdrawal, control, blame, or escape. That's when stonewalling shows up. That's when someone dives into their work. That's when I just need space ends up becoming emotional distance. Not because they stop loving you, because they don't have the emotional bandwidth to stay present with you. And here's the part we don't like to talk about. If you keep attracting people who don't have capacity, it's worth asking whether you fully have it either. Because if you don't, If you don't have the endurance to move slowly, if you attach before stress reveals character, if you escalate before regulation is tested, you'll bond with potential instead of proven capacity. The real mirror, those questions are, do I stay regulated when I'm disappointed? Can I have hard conversations without threatening to leave? Do I escalate when I feel insecure? Do I shut down when I feel misunderstood? Do I seek relief instead of resolution? Nervous systems pair up. And I'll say this clearly. I've been divorced 3 times. Every one of those relationships started with desire. There was chemistry. There was hope. There was excitement. But when life got heavy, capacity got exposed. I didn't understand that back then. I thought desire meant sustainability. I thought if we loved each other enough, we would figure it out. Love doesn't replace regulation. When stress hit, we didn't build. We coped. We blamed. We withdrew. It wasn't that we didn't want partnership. It was that we didn't have the emotional capacity to sustain it. I didn't have the framework. I didn't have the capacity either. And I own that. So when I say assess capacity, I'm not pointing fingers. I had to build mine. Most people think compatibility is attraction, lifestyle, values, financial stability. Yes, you start there, but partnership sustainability is emotional regulation, conflict repair, accountability, nervous system steadiness, endurance. That's not romantic. That's adult. If you don't even know how to filter for the basics before the first date, attraction, lifestyle, alignment, shared direction, start there. That's foundational. I have a training called Before the First Date that walks you through that filter. But understand this. That's step 1. It prevents you from wasting time. It does not measure partnership capacity. You start by filtering for compatibility before the first date. Then you observe for capacity over time. Capacity, that's what you deserve once you're inside the connection. And the truth, your last relationship probably didn't fail because there wasn't desire. It failed because when pressure hit, someone didn't have the capacity to stay engaged. Stop assessing desire. Start assessing capacity. Desire starts relationships. Capacity sustains them.